Another blessed day. We thank God for another blessed day. I want to thank God for allowing me to make this video, and I want to thank him for allowing you to watch the video. Today we're talking about the 6.2 liter LT1 small block. That's that Gen 5 all aluminum V8 that's coming out of General Motors. Spectacular engine, and it deserves a segment of its own. I'm showing you this car here, which is a 6th gen Camaro SS, and this is one of the vehicles that has this magnificent all aluminum small block engine. This car is equipped with the NPP quad tip exhaust. It really allows you to hear the rumble of that Gen 5 small block. Not too loud, not too obnoxious, but definitely loud enough to let you know you got a V8 up under the hood. Let's go ahead and pop that hood and talk about this magnificent piece of an engine. And there she is, guys, in all her beauty and in all her glory. You're looking at a 6.2 liters. That's approximately 376 cubic inches of displacement you're looking at. All aluminum, Gen 5 small block engine. Just an incredible engine. And you know, it deserves a segment. General Motors have really took this thing to the next level. You know, even if you go back and you look at the engines like the LS3 small block, that's the Gen 4 LS engine, which was a unbelievable motor. I mean, the engine literally speaks for itself. Everybody in the automotive world was swapping them into hot rods, swapping them into old Camaros, swapping them into Corvettes, you know, swapping them into project cars, swapping them and all sorts of stuff. I've even seen somebody swap the LS3 into a Ford product. You know, that's just how popular those engines was. One guy was famous for swapping one of those LS3 engines into a Miata, and he made that thing a rocket. We're talking about a Mazda Miata. That's a small little car, and he put that big powerful V8 engine in it. Turned the thing into a rocket. But now GM has took the next step and now introduced the all aluminum LT1 Gen 5 engine. This engine was first introduced in 2014. If you remember, the C7 Corvette was when this engine first came onto the scene. 6.2 liters. It rated 460 and I think about 465 pound-feet of torque at the flywheel. General Motors just detuned it a little bit when they put it in the Chevy Camaro, and it's now rated at 455 horse and a dead even 455 torque. Very interesting when you're looking at an engine where the torque figure and the horsepower is so identical. Let's take a closer look at this engine in great detail. If you pay close attention here, I'm running a Mishimoto oil separator or catch can, and that's simply placed on this motor to just help to keep the intake plenum from collecting excess oil. But if you pay close attention, General Motors have thought this engine out a lot. They actually placed, this is a factory oil catch can that drains the oil right back into the oil pan, because this engine is all aluminum, but it's also direct injected. That's right. Unlike the LS3, they went away from the port and they put the injectors directly into the combustion chamber, which is a good thing in a way because they were able to increase horsepower. They were able to bring the compression all the way up to 11.5 to 1. They were also able to bring up the torque. And also, with doing all of that, guys, they were also able to lower the emissions, better fuel economy. Because basically with the direct injection, the fuel atomizes a little bit better as it sprays directly into the combustion chamber. Now, we all know with pros, you're going to have cons. And the reason why they took these measures is because they didn't want that intake valve to start to carbon up. Because as we know, in a port style injection engine, that fuel is being sprayed on the back side of the valves, and that helps to keep the valves clean, because gasoline is a solvent and it helps to keep things clean. But now that they went to the direct injection, that fuel is no longer being sprayed on the back side of the valves. So some people were concerned and they were saying, hey, you know, what about carbon buildup? But let me tell you guys something. There has been no sirens. If you pay close attention, this car has been out since 2016 in the Camaros, but it's been alive since 2014. And guess what? We haven't been seeing anything. Go read the forums. You Chevy guys out there in the comments, get in the comments and drop me something if you don't believe me. We don't see a lot of guys complaining about carbon buildup, especially if you live in a warmer climate and you drive this car not like a grandma constantly, but you bring the RPMs up, you give it that good old-fashioned Italian tune-up. You run the right fuel, which is, this car calls for 93 premium. So you're running the right fuel, you're running the right Dexos approved motor oil. You can go either 0W40, which is recommended, or you can also stick to the 5W30, which has been proven. But with that being said, guys, I want to share something with you so you can see literal proof. Take a look at this chart to see how the engine compares to its replacement, which is the LS3. Now, as you pay close attention to this chart, take a look at the compression. They brought the compression all the way up to 11.5 to 1. It was once 10.7. Look at the horsepower figures. 460 from 430. Take a look at the fuel system. As you pay close attention, they're now running the direct injection, as I already told you. But look at the cam phasing. They went from variable valve timing to the new CVVT, which is a continuous variable valve timing. They now have full control over that cam. That's kind of the things that make that LT1 such a special motor. Look at the oiling. The LS3 featured a single pressure oil pump. They now move to a dual stage, which frees up a ton of horsepower. Dual stage oil pump. A little bit more complexity, but the benefits are astounding. Let's take a look at the internals. Look at that crankshaft. The LS3 was running a cast iron crankshaft, which really didn't have any issues that I can remember. Those LS3s was pretty bulletproof too for the most part. Granted, the lifters was always an issue, but that's because of the earlier variants where they had the active fuel management. If you're driving a vehicle which is a manual transmission, which I love to stress, if you pay close attention, this vehicle is equipped with the 6-speed 6060, that's the TR Tremec transmission, TR 6060. Any car that is equipped with this gearbox, it does not have AFM or DOD. That's simply a technology where they shut down some of the lifters to save fuel. Say you're just coasting the car around and you're not really demanding a lot out of the vehicle. It'll shut it down and put it in a more like a 4-cylinder mode. That DOD even could shut it down to, I think, about 2 cylinders at a time. They could deactivate, which is a little bit more advanced. But it's basically an emissions technology to save fuel. But there have been issues where lifters have been known to fail because of this. But if you get the manual transmission, that technology is not present. A lot of guys don't understand that. So this is what I like to stress. If you buy a manual car, you do not have to worry about AFM. A lot of the hot rodders, the gearheads, they just go ahead and delete it. So with that being said, now you know what's really going on with the heart of these motors. These motors are just simply outstanding. Let's get back under that hood and discuss this thing in further detail. Now that we're back under the hood looking at this marvelous example of an engine, a lot of things that a lot of guys like to talk to me about, especially the Ford guys with that legendary Coyote engine, which is a spectacular engine. But the reason why I still stand behind the LT1 and the reason why this engine is my choice is for a few reasons. Pay close attention. If you're a guy like me who favors naturally aspirated horsepower, this engine is by far better than the Coyote engine. And I'm going to tell you why. Simply because of there's no replacement for displacement. That's an old school saying, but it still stands true to this day. Yes, we all know that this LT1 is a 6.2 liter and the Coyote engine is a 5.0 liter engine. But it's not just there. If you look at the internals of this masterpiece, the bore size is where the magic is happening. The LT1 Gen 5 small block has a bore space of 103.25 millimeters. Let that sink in. That's a very important number because as we look at the Coyote, it has a smaller bore size. It's only bored out to 92.2 millimeters. So there's no way Ford could make that engine a bigger motor. They'll have to probably stroke it out, but they can't do too much because they're going to encroach on the other cylinders. I've seen guys take this engine and do what's known as a 416 stroker, stroke it out, bring up the displacement. You could bore this thing all the way if you're crazy enough. And if you want that big NA naturally aspirated horsepower, you could bore this motor out to all the way to a 7 liter. Yes, you could bore this thing out to 427 cubic inches and turn this thing into a fire-breathing 7 liter monster, putting out ridiculous naturally aspirated horsepower. There's no way the Coyote could touch that. It's just too small of a motor. Now, the reason why a lot of guys love to hang their hats on the Coyote is simply because it's a dual overhead cam, 4 valves per cylinder, and if you're going boosted, that is the only time I see the Coyote holding a benefit or holding an edge to this absolute monster that we're sitting here staring at. In a boosted application, yes, I agree. The Coyote engine is the superior choice because it just breathes better up top. You know, you're talking 4 valves per cylinder. You're talking dual overhead cam. I think that's a 32 valve engine. So those things breed, man. And it's funny because my wife actually has a Mustang with I think it has a Gen 3 Coyote where they have the dual injection. They got the port and they have direct injection. The thing makes about 460 horses. And we lined up and let me tell you something. I snatched off and I took her off the line. But I noticed on the top end she was coming. So it does breed up top, but if you're talking naturally aspirated horsepower, there is no better engine than this Gen 5 small block that we're looking at. I'm going to go ahead and say this thing will even outperform the 6.4 Hemis of the day. That's right. It will outrun the 6.4 liter Hemi, all because of the technology, the continuous variable valve timing, the direct injection, that all aluminum motor. It's able to dissipate heat a lot better. I mean, this is just unbelievable. A masterpiece, a world class. This is top of the line. When this thing first came out, the LT1, there's a guy out there that literally take these motors and he transplant them into all of the Jeep JKs, because everybody knows the Jeeps, unless you get a 392, most of them only have 6-cylinder engines, and they just don't have the torque and the power to really climb if you're doing off-roading, if you're driving on the trails. If you really need a motor that's gonna really, you know, take you over the top and give you that low down grunt that you're looking for, you need a V8. Let's just call a spade a spade. Another thing too, the bigger engine is gonna live longer because it's low stress. A lot of times I'm putting through the city and I got this thing right around $2 grand, $3 grand. And I mean, talking about that slow turning V8, and that thing is just trucking along because it makes all of the power down low. You got to remember, at 4,600 RPMs, this thing is make peak torque, 460 torque. You understand what I'm saying? 460 pound-feet of torque. So this thing is just, I never forget what a old race car guy told me. He say, torque gets you there, horsepower keeps you there. So the torque figure, it's so important. Do not underestimate torque. It's very important when you see a motor that's so balanced like the LT1 small block that we're looking at here. This thing has got everything except for a flex fuel sensor if you want to run the E85, but this is the future we're looking at. You know, General Motors, they really just refined this thing, and there's just very few choices. There's nothing else out there on the market that could compete with this thing. The cooling system is superb. The continuous variable valve timing, 6.2 liters of displacement, that all aluminum design, even that LT1 intake manifold is one hell of a machine. Because that intake manifold, you could go with the MSD. A lot of guys in the aftermarket world, they go with the MSD. Some guys go with the Holley high ram. As you can see, the way I use my vehicle, it's still in its factory form, because I do not track this car. I just drive it on the street. Every now and again I do perform spirited driving, because like I told you, you don't want those intake valves to foul up on you with carbon. So you definitely want to stretch her legs. But just thought I'd do a segment to just talk about this masterpiece of an engine, guys. You can't go wrong. You can't go wrong. The LT1 all aluminum. This thing just breathes, man. This thing, there's very few engines out there on the market today in a naturally aspirated form that I would take over this thing. There's just very few. But like I said, guys, the most important thing about this channel is God. So I want to let everyone know who's watching, God loves you. He'll never forget you. He'll never forsake you. Put him first. Talk to God no matter what you're going through. Talk to him just like how you're sitting here watching this video. You could talk to him just like how you're talking to me. And keep him first, guys. I love you, and you guys have a blessed one.